I think pretty much everyone is here. Hi everyone, and welcome to the second session of the Recruitment Journey webinar series. I'm very glad to have you all here. My name is Kira Panikak, and I have the wonderful pleasure to introduce our speaker for today, Ronaldo Barrett. Ronaldo, if you can just pop yourself on mute for a second there for me, please.
Yes.
Okay, great. So Ronaldo Barrett is a client development consultant at Thomas International South Africa. She is a registered industrial psychologist who is passionate about personal, interpersonal, and team development. She has experience working with a variety of people, from professionals, teams, to management, and she has a really strong emphasis on growth and empowerment, promoting engagement within companies. Ronaldo has worked for Thomas International for 3 years, working with and supporting clients in various industries with their people-related matters. So Ronaldo, I'm really excited for this session. Can't wait to hear everything you have to tell us. And yeah, you can take it from here.
Thank you for the introduction, Kira. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the second Thomas Recruitment webinar. And today we will be talking about the onboarding journey. So we will be discussing the topic for about 50 minutes, whereafter we have an opportunity for questions and comments. Okay. Now, the learning objectives for today is, first of all, we're going to look at the importance of the onboarding journey, how to create an onboarding journey, and as well as the impact that the workplace culture has and the role it plays, along with psychometric assessments in onboarding and the role of the manager. And then afterwards, so now you've completed your onboarding, what next? So before we start focusing on the importance of the onboarding journey, we first need to understand what it is. So what is employee onboarding? It is not just an orientation or induction of a new employee, which likely takes place in that first day or two, but it's the overall business process to bring that newly hired employee into the organization and to get them to adjust to the social and performance aspects of their new job quickly and smoothly. Now, there's more to onboarding than just where do I sit, what do I need to do, who's in my team. It's about the culture, it's about that social connection. It's about helping new employees become productive team members, and it's about delivering on the promise you made before you hired them. So it may, for instance, kick off with a general induction, but moves beyond this to a program tailored specifically for the person and the role. And onboarding ends when the person is fully competent and contributing employee. So key elements to this is that it's not like an induction program which has this almost one size fits all approach, but it's tailored to the individual. And it's also a two-way interactive process where it starts from recruitment and ends after 6 to 12 months when the new hire is fully productive. It can include, for instance, formal training, informal training, coaching, information sharing, goal setting, feedback, and social interventions. So we at Thomas, we have the recruitment journey categorized the recruitment journey into 5 stages. So these 5 stages are where we first clearly identify the vacant role. So basically, what is required? What do we need for this role? Then we attract our candidates, and from there, once we have our candidates, assess them and select perhaps a short list of employees. And from that short list of candidates, we appoint the right person quickly. And lastly, we then the induction takes place into the role and into the team and the culture. Now, here it's important to see that the recruitment journey does not end with the candidate signing the contract. It ends once this new candidate or employee has successfully been inducted into the company. In fact, a recruitment journey should only be seen as finalized and successful once an employee is performing the role and producing the work that is required of them. Now, Harvard Business Review actually refers to onboarding as the most vulnerable period in the employee life cycle. At Google, they front load their employee investment, which basically means the majority of their time and money is spent on, which is spent on people, is invested in attracting and assessing and cultivating new hires. The global beauty company L'Oreal sees the onboarding as a competitive advantage with the fact that they have a 2-year, 6-part integration program that they call the L'Oreal Fit. Now, the question is why? So why do these successful global companies spend large sums of money and time and effort on onboarding? So I do like to look at a few stats. So when we look at data, which was gathered by top HR and applicant tracking software companies and analytic companies, we find some very telling statistics on onboarding. For instance, Urban found that 20% of new hires leave in the first 45 days on the job. That's very scary to think after all the effort of the 45 days, 20% are likely to leave. And they found that 77% of employees who have a formal onboarding process hit their first performance goals. Now, research by Glassdoor found that organizations with a strong onboarding process improve new hire retention by 82% and also productivity by 70%. Another statistic by Bamboo HR found that organizations with effective onboarding have 33% more employees feeling engaged versus those with ineffective onboarding. They also found that employees with good onboarding experience are 18 times more likely to feel highly committed to their organizations. And when we look at Gallup's research, they found that only 12% of employees strongly agree that their organization does a great job on onboarding new employees. So that basically means 88% of companies and organizations do not have a great job do not do a great job of onboarding, and that leaves a lot of room for improvement. And Gallup's analytics further found that new employees typically take around 12 months to reach their full performance potential within a role. And that's far longer than a lot of onboarding programs are. Mostly you hear about perhaps a month or 3 months or so on, but still the employees, they're not fully onboarded yet, but we're going on as if they are, whether they are actually already performing at the level that we want them to. Now, a manager satisfaction survey was done, said that the managers satisfaction increased when with 20% when the employees had formal onboarding training. So those are just a few statistics when we look at why onboarding is important. But research clearly shows, and you can look at, I think I've looked at so many stats, that effective onboarding has very much a measurable return on investment. It reduces employee turnover and cost. It allows employees to become more productive quicker, and it teaches new hires about the roles in the company, and not just their roles, but the culture and the team and the company's vision and strategies. It reduces that new employee anxiety, and I think all of us know when you start a job, you do experience some anxiety, unsure what to expect, what next, and if done correctly, can very much be a competitive advantage for organization. Now, onboarding can even ensure our workplace compliance is followed from day one, and it can help to maintain and enrich our organization's culture. And I think after this, you'll realize that you cannot look at onboarding without considering putting that culture in throughout, from the getting before the actual, even in the recruitment phase throughout. Your culture needs to be felt. And you can also cultivate teamwork and mentorships and leaderships, and that relationships that what we have at the company. Now, the impact of ineffective onboarding, if you just think about it, what impact could ineffective onboarding have on a new starter, on the manager, on the team, on the organization as a whole? There can be potential performance hit for the candidate if they're not onboarded properly. And as a knock-on effect, the wider team could face could struggle, as that person's performance is bringing down the team, and they need more support, and they need to, the team needs to pick up the slack that the other team and the new team member is not making up. And with that said, the team it could affect the relationships with the team members, and even the new starter themselves may experience some motivation or confidence knock. And further, the manager may need to spend more time with the new employee, providing more support and training, and very much frustrations can arise. And of course, from for a larger sense of view, the organization could it could cost them more time and money. So the research is clear: creating an effective onboarding program is vitally important. But now, how do we do that? Okay, so effective onboarding requires more than, as I said, the orientation day or checklist of forms and manuals and meets and greets. Onboarding should in fact be a journey that employees take with their managers, with the team, and should be around a year. As research shows, we do take a little bit longer to become acquainted with our role and perform to the levels that is required of us. So, and for that, doing that, you can build a strong foundation for that longer term success for the organization and the employee. And while there's no set in stone process that works for every organization, there's a few things that you can keep in mind while developing your own onboarding journey and deciding how your onboarding journey couldn't be improved. So first of all, pre-boarding. So it's important to remember that the relationship with the new employee has already started. They would have formed an opinion of the organization and its people from the first interaction that they have. It starts building during the recruitment journey and can grow even further between that offer and the start, if in fact it's focused on. So this is thus very much essential to communicate with your new starter regularly, and you put the groundwork in before the employee starts. Now, research shows that employees who are pre-boarded feel more valued, more committed, and more enthused about their role and the belief about the company and the culture, and that whether they'll be joining a more innovative and modern organization. Now, so following your job offer, there should be a clear path for what to do next. So this will substantially help ease the stress and the confusion, and help the employee to start processing and preparing for their role, and literally you start off with the right foot. So providing access to the job related information, perhaps at like a centralized point, which is easily accessible, can help your new starter so that they can take their time and work through it. So of course, if you think of certain individuals, they do want to read every detail and every book, so why not give it to them? While others perhaps not so much, but it provided them and making it available can just show that the company cares and they're looking forward to this employee coming on and joining the organization. And very much for those people who do experience more anxiety about new challenges and new roles and new ventures, it can reduce that anxiety and actually allow them to build a little bit more on their excitement, because of course you're going into a new role that's exciting, so why not build on that? And next, so a clear timeline of the journey is important, so ensuring that they know when are they hearing from you, how they can prepare for their first day, and where possible allowing them to complete all the paperwork required for before the starting day. So this saves time and allows them to work through the documents in their own time. And another thing you can consider is also providing practical tips for your new hires. It can go very much a long way, and you can ask your employees to give tips and what they think. So perhaps someone that's already in the team, what they wish that they knew before they started. So silly things like what to wear, what to expect for lunch. This could dramatically drive up that engagement and decrease that confusion that new starters may be feeling. It's also vitally important for the team to prepare for the new employee to understand where this new employee will fit into the role and how it will affect their own roles. And of course, on the one hand, to make that entrance of the employee as smooth as possible and to get them collaborating, but also it shows that they're looking forward to this new person coming, or encouraging that, saying that they know, and it's not just another day, but this person is starting their new day. So next is a focus should be the first day. And basically, you need to make the first day great. If you think back to any first day you might have had, or and just think back and wonder what actually do you remember? So what stood out, if anything? And it's very likely that after that first day, a friend or family member has asked you, okay, how did it go? And you had your answer. Maybe it went great, maybe it was terrible, maybe it's, I made a mistake, or maybe the team was amazing. The question we as an organization need to ask is, what do we want the new employee to say? That answer sets the tone for the rest of the journey. That first impression we make is critical in ensuring we get buy-in and commitment to the organization, and ensure that we ride that excitement that they're on. Now, thinking about it, would you want your first impression of an organization to be paperwork? As I mentioned, that we prefer that you actually have that paperwork completed in the pre-boarding, because if you have to do mounds and mounds of paperwork and admin on your first day, which a lot of companies do, it's time spent, for instance, in long BTs and reviewing and signing documents is not a fun day. It's not making an impact. So where possible, complete the paperwork beforehand and have everything ready and set up for the employee. And like I said, make that first day exciting. Now, so another question would then be, how do we make it exciting? This is where I believe you can be very creative and involve the new starters team and manager. They can very much take initiative, or the manager can take the lead, of course, but you can think of having something waiting at their desk. I know Adidas, for instance, has a welcome packet with very nice Adidas merchandise the employee receives, and also they arrange for the lunch, the new starters lunch on their first day. So Another company could, I know, arrange lunch with a new starter and their team. So this is a great way and or idea to just for the team to meet and to make this new employee's arrival special. Of course, you need to depend on the size of the team as well as the resources that you have available. But it doesn't need to be extravagant. It could basically be a welcome note, um, just something small, or making that day special. For instance, asking the security guard or informing the security guard of the new arrival, so that they're aware and welcome this person when they enter the premises. Something small that just makes that day special. Another thing, I don't know how many times I've spoken to new hires, and even in my own first job, um, where you just feel a little bit bored on your first day. So to some extent, you do not want to overwhelm a new employee. You would like to ease them into things. However, there's nothing worse than sitting at your desk, twiddling your thumbs, because you don't know or what to do. You don't have anything to do. So rather give them something to do so that they feel a sense of accomplishment. Okay. Now the journey. As I mentioned, my recommendation is making the onboarding a journey. So events and processes like pre-boarding, orientation day, and compliance, they are important, and especially initially for the new employee, but on their own, they're not sufficient for preparing that employee to excel in their roles. So exceptional journey-based onboarding programs help employees learn and grow throughout their first year on the job. And coming up with a detailed onboarding plan that clearly defines the steps and ensures that your employee receives every bit of training they need to succeed, and also ensures that that newest team member is properly welcomed and introduced not only to their own job, but to your company and your organization as a whole. So then make it personal. So as a general philosophy, we should onboard the individual and not the job. Of course, there will be specific job items relevant to new employees, regardless of their experience or rank or where they fall in which department and so on, that you have to review, especially during your orientation. But the journey should be tailored to the person. So it's important to recognize that a new hire who, for instance, spent years in the industry will have very different needs to that of perhaps a more junior level trainee. Next is flexibility. Now, the flexibility we're talking about here is about the flexibility to evolve and refine the process as you get to know an employee and more effectively manage the contrasting needs of the different individuals. And then, very important, your journey should also include social interaction. So work gets done in teams, and socializing of a new hire to their team is critical. It's difficult to feel a sense of belonging if your teams don't accept you. And when teammates go the extra mile to welcome and mentor their new team members, or when that trust and cohesion in the team is formed, it's likely going to form quicker. As time passes, stronger relationships play a significant role in helping both the employees and the team accomplish their best work. So one way to ease it is including an icebreaker in your pre-boarding, for instance, like a get to know you questionnaire, which could be shared with the team before the new team member joins. So this just gives an opportunity to perhaps initiate a conversation or for them to get to know the employee. So then is the training of your leaders, your managers, and your team to actually take responsibility for the onboarding process. So those feelings of belonging and trust and respect can't be generated from a checklist. They actually require conversations with leaders, managers, team members, and everyone, not just HR, needs to take responsibility for new employee success. So, depending on their role, a new hire may have a formal mentor that guides them, or just a buddy that could sit with them on the day, um, and just to help them answer and any questions they might have, or and to help them to acclimate to the new role, to the company, and so on. So then it creates that opportunity to get to know each other, but also answers some of the question and decreases some of the confusion that the person may be feeling. So then important, incorporating well-being. So an effective onboarding journey promotes well-being by helping employees adjust the job and position, and to help them do their best. And once it's best to start off incorporating well-being, with emphasizing that the company cares about the employee overall, and from the get-go already showing that to the employee, and emphasizing well-being empowers employee to reduce their stress and promotes longer-term healthy work habits. Now, overall, keeping your you should also keep your journey friendly. We are working with people. Onboarding is a human process, so get to know your new hires general interests and lifestyles outside of work, and so to emphasize that you value them, that you actually want them, and they're not just there to complete a job. Okay, so when we continue, there's a few points. So sorry for those that tend to want to straight into the point. The journey should encourage questions and questioning. It's very hard for anyone to absorb a massive amount of information all at once, let alone this nervous new employee that's exposed to new people, new ways, new processes, everything. And managers should consider actually employing micro-learning methods. So rather than overwhelming a new employee with too much information, have them incrementally impart like the policies and the process, and the necessary requirements to required for the role, and making the onboarding process perhaps less intimidating, and help with that retention. Now, to make it easy for employee to perhaps clarify and policies and procedures, encourage them to ask questions, and underline that they won't suffer any negative consequences for doing so, but actually you want to encourage them and have them see it as a positive way of going about their own onboarding. So then it's more focused to, sorry about that. Sorry about that. So it's more focused to developing a growth mindset by perhaps introducing processes like goal setting and feedback as part of our onboarding is another way, or incorporating your employee value proposition. So when you attract and hire someone for your organization, you make explicit and implicit promises to them. So based on your employee value proposition, and onboarding is the first time your new employees experiences your EVP in action. So if you no longer, so the promises that you made, you actually need to live out in your day-to-day and in the culture of the organization. So yes, the compensation, the benefits, the work experience that the employees expect is part of it, but that's just for initially. It also goes on, you need to engage and deliver the EVP, perhaps start with it later on in the process, so that what you said you are going to do, that you're showing it, and that you are doing, and you're keeping to your word. Now, another thing to consider is not comparing new hires against employees with tenure. We do have a habit, perhaps comparing a new employee with someone who's been there for a little bit longer, or how that previous person performed in that role. And we might tend to be very biased. So do not, if you compare them to employees who've been there longer, rather ensure that you are fair and compare them rather to someone, if you really need to, that's been in their role for the same amount of time. Then very important, so focus on your strength from the start. Sometimes we tend to focus on what can go wrong and what they're missing, but focus on that strength. Employers should give new employees that opportunity just to discover their talents and share it with their team. So this can help managers and team with increasing productivity and early acceptance of this new hire, and also the early acceptance of a new success for the new hire. Managers should talk to employees about their goals and opportunities to grow and develop. So it's important for today's workers. We do find it's especially your millennials who value development. So it shouldn't start with your first formal review. Then build employees' confidence by finding early success and making sure the first assignments lead to success. So you want that positive reinforcement, helping them along, making them more comfortable. So give them that earlier small successes from the start, and prefer to take a multi-model approach. So using videos, using personal chats, classroom lectures, presentations to help with the learning. Don't just go one route, but try multiple methods. That helps employee retention and makes the onboarding process more engaging. But most important, I believe, is for onboarding to be successful, new employees need to understand your culture and believe they fit into it. So hiring for culture fit is important, but it means little if the organization doesn't invite new employees to participate in the culture. And organizations need to create experiences that bring their culture into life in perhaps social as well as emotional ways. So then, of course, we're moving over to workplace culture. Now, organizational culture is broadly defined as the way we do things around here. So what is said and what is done, what we basically do every day. It includes structures of teams, who gets rewarded and why, how leaders make decisions, and that regular small things that in the end make us unique and create and says who we are. Now, with onboarding, it's the first chance organizations have, or actually with the whole recruitment process, to demonstrate their real culture, putting into action the culture that they claim to have in the attraction and when they were recruiting. It is thus important to introduce the culture to the employee from the start, like from pre-boarding throughout. Now, to help employees experience the culture, we must give them opportunities to observe current employees, to live a culture and see how it plays out in the organization's decisions and values. So we must basically showcase the company's culture in the onboarding journey and how it reinforces the culture's the company's vision. So illustrating it by doing hands-on activities that demonstrate that company's values and beliefs, and how in fact it leads to the greater collective success of an organization. So communicating basically about your culture and putting into action is a very important step, but culture cannot just be explained in entirety through a conversation or orientation. It must be felt and experienced and lived out in the day-to-day workplace environment. So here the managers and the team members play a crucial role in culture transfer. So they help to integrate the new employee into their way of thinking and doing that is essential for the companies and creating the company's culture. So that's typically that experiential learning is required here. Now, for culture and the journey, so the goal is, once you have your onboarding program, to then structure around the content and so that it represents your company culture. So the workplace culture is often best, as I mentioned, through imparted through examples and interactions, and so that's where it's a good idea to schedule social times with your new starters. So invite them for lunch or informal gathering. So anything that's outside of work. And as we are social beings, and we are more than just there for a job, we want to socially connect. So that this ensures, if you invite them for social times, that they interact with each other outside of the office. So that next, you can encourage team building. So inviting new hires to the company retreats, bonding activities, and optional social get-togethers. So physically spending time with colleagues can help to integrate new hires and into the company itself, but also to the culture. And organizing team building activities and events help to reinforce and grow the company culture. So very positive for your new and existing employees. Then next would be to celebrate the company's history. So organizing that in a way, you can have very different ways of going about it, but exposing them to the company history, perhaps a book or the value statement, or just so that they know where the company is coming from, why they exist, how it all happened. It ingrains in the company culture. Okay. Then you can, and I think this is something you might have picked up on, involve everyone. The onboarding process is seemingly always about the new employee, but not really. It's about integrating the whole team. We work in teams, so it's important that we integrate the whole team. And like I said, prepare the team beforehand for the new arrivals and how their roles are impacted. So, but involving everyone can assist in ensuring that you impart the company's cultures, and you encourage them to actually be a resource for this new arrivals and to make them feel a part of a team. And for instance, something small like asking the team members to recall their own experiences going through the onboarding or on their first day, create that connection between the new starter and the employee. And an idea, for instance, of assigning a specific job, for instance, a training or so on, to each team member. So first, so they get to know the team member, but also making them feel involved in that development of your new starter. So it's very important, as you might know, that the culture is ingrained throughout, like I mentioned, and we should encourage new starters to get involved, to be a part of a team, and to get them into the culture of an organization. Okay, so my next topic is psychometric assessments and onboarding. Now, each employee is unique, and we should basically treat them as such. A universal generic onboarding process is not going to create that enthusiasm in your new starter. So if you are basically going to put them through the process just to do it, just to get that tick box exercise, they will feel that way too. So the question then is, how do we customize for the journey for them? And my thoughts always go back to, we've already gathered so much information about this new employee during the recruitment process. Why not use it? So you would likely, when you were screening your candidate, had them obtain a lot of information, basically nitpick what are the strengths, developmental areas within the interviews, within assessments, and you likely already know, the line manager already knows, and the HR department already knows what are the possible strengths and limitations. And this is valuable information that you shouldn't go to waste. So why not use it to tailor the program? So, um, so if you think of psychometrics, now we at Thomas have 3 elements that we assess which could be used to deliver onboarding insights. So personality, aptitude, and behavior. Now, our personality assessment can provide insight into the strengths and possible derails of your new starters, which can assist you in identifying areas where they may require additional support, or areas which you can use as a strength, perhaps that the team doesn't have. Why not? And tap into. We sometimes think of, we lose out on some of the strengths that the team member brings to the table if we so focused on the process or just the positives and the negative, sorry. So it would likely indicate the personality assessment, now how the approach work. It could very much be used to tailor the development program throughout the onboarding journey, as well as the future development. So don't just stop at onboarding, make it a part of your performance management process. Now, oh, sorry, I accidentally switched off my, okay, no. Then with aptitude, we obtain an indication of how the new starter would get to grips with their new role. So would they hit the ground running, or would they need additional support in certain areas, take a little bit longer to first initially come comfortable and absorb all the information. It could also give us an indication of the level of challenge they require in their role to keep them motivated. And lastly, the behavioral assessment. My go-to is always start with behavior and delve in deeper then to personality, and then but always considering the aptitude on the side. The more information, the better. But behavior is a nice starting point, just indicating how that person's likely going to behave from the start, how they prefer to communicate, how they would likely behave when under pressure, and how they can be used to identify their strengths and limitations according to their role. So psychometrics in the journey itself can very much help you understand your new employee before they get started. So it can help the manager understand how they need to adjust their style for the employee, and how the journey could be tailored for the new employee. So very important for the manager to get the information on the assessments beforehand, so they actually can prepare for and modify and consider how to modify their behavior and manage this person better. So with our behavioral assessment, the BPA, if you're not aware, we have a how to manage report and an onboarding report, which a new manager could use to prepare for that new for the new starter starting. It's also recommended that you use psychometrics to increase this new starters awareness, so giving them feedback on their results. It's sad when you hear a lot of times that they don't get the opportunity to receive feedback on the results. Increasing self-awareness, for me, that's the starting point in everything in life, for your own development, for development within an organization, is self-awareness. And allowing them to go through the process and get feedback can help them to identify what are their possible strengths and areas that they may require assistance within their role. And it's wise then, after they receive feedback, for the line manager and the new starter to have a discussion about it. So then determining that strengths and weaknesses, and how the manager can support the employee, and how they can adjust and help their relationship along. Another use for psychometrics could be with a team building. So a workshop could be created with a psychometric assessments that facilitates that integration of a new employee into the team, or basically for them to get to know each other a little bit better, and to help them function a little bit better together. And then another thing to consider is, yes, now this employee is in the new role, they've gone through the processes, but their style has likely changed, the behavioral style has likely changed. So it's a good idea to reassess and just determine how they're modifying for their current role. Is there something we need to be aware of? Is there something the manager needs to adopt and modify? And if so, if there's a major change, why is it occurring? To have that conversation. So reassessing perhaps after 6 months, once they become more comfortable in the role, is another great way of using psychometrics in the journey. Now lastly, or second to last, is I quickly want to look at the role of the manager in onboarding. Now, research shows us, and that whole saying about you don't leave an organization, you leave a manager, is very true. That manager-employee relationship is the most important relationship at any stage of employee life cycle, and especially in your onboarding journey. So with that said, managers should be the greatest, should shoulder and take on the greatest responsibility for the success of new hires. And ultimately, it's their job to ensure that your employees are brought up to speed, developed, and supported. And we get caught up with thinking very much, like I said, that it's an HR thing. It's not. Gallup research actually shows that the effectiveness of an onboarding program is largely contingent on the manager's active involvement in the process. So too often managers are not included, or it's for them it's simply a tick box exercise. It shouldn't be. The manager should there to connect. They should create that connection with a new employee to bring them on and throughout the journey. It can bring relief to employee and alleviate some stress and help them to understand what is expected of them, and creating that connection, making them feel comfortable talking to the manager, and the manager further support the new employee, ensure that desired behaviors are exhibited, and help them to acclimate to the new culture. So they should also schedule time to meet with a new employee from day one, and plan to connect daily for optimal results, so that if there's anything they should be aware of, and they or any struggles that the employee might be having, that they can address it head on and in a timely fashion. Now, they should also plan weekly milestones for this new employee. So schedule meetings and sharing moments with key stakeholders. So that could be perhaps incorporating into a strategic discussion and like assessing the progress, having that career development discussions early in the journey, not only afterwards, but having it front of mind. And managers should also track the new employees' progress and ensure that they give feedback regularly, but also to celebrate that wow moments. And even if it's just that certain elements going the extra mile, like the welcome gift or a lunch with peers, the manager should be forefront in taking charge, and it should actually be his or her responsibility. So as there are those small wins, create very much a long-term value for your new employees. But now, how do we get the line managers involved? So first of all, your line management should be involved from the start and creating. So consulting them when you're creating your new strategy, getting their thoughts and ideas and suggestions, then communicating, sometimes we're not aware of what actually the program is and so on, but ensuring that you communicate the onboarding program effectively with your managers, then providing them with the necessary support and training to ensure that they can actually do this, that they can actually onboard effectively. So perhaps giving them a little bit of checklists to cover, and to ensure that they cover everything and something is not missed, or helping them and guiding them. But another idea would be to make it part of their performance plan. So linking it with their performance can be effective, as it can motivate them and create this almost win-win situation. So it's a win for the line manager, but it's also a win for your employee, and then to reward and celebrate. So if someone does something well, especially your line managers within this new onboarding, why not celebrate that? So what next? So now X amount of time and months go into your new employees onboarding, and they've required their performance. So what next? So, so onboarding very much sets a stage for your employee engagement and performance development, but it shouldn't end there. Employee engagement and retention is very much a beast that needs constant attention. So that newness of the job fades, but it's still important to have a clear expectation to ensure that your employees remain involved, that they're aware of what their motivations are, and that they see a future within the organization, so that you help motivate that and keep them, retain your employees. But another thing, so that people focus on ensuring their employee relationship is nurtured, is not the only element that we need to worry about when the onboarding process is completed. It's also about assessing and refining the onboarding journey. Again and again, like I mentioned, it should be an ongoing process. And a great idea there is to involve and survey the new employees once they've completed it, so that you get information from this when still fresh in mind. And also employees, they give a different perception about than the man or the employee, but it's important for them to focus more than on the actual onboarding and not the employee. So they give that different perception about the program. Okay, then with that said, the presentation has come to an end. I hope you've enjoyed it and you've learned something a little bit and have some new ideas and tips on onboarding. But the key takeaways for here is onboarding is critical and vital in the employee life cycle and sets the stage for employee engagement and commitment and employee retention. And it requires the involvement of everyone, but specifically the manager, and the culture here is key. Okay, so that's it from my side.
Awesome. Thanks, Ronaldo. That was really insightful. I'm sure a lot of us learned a lot today. I see Annika even asked, will the presentation be shared with us? There were some useful points here. Someone else said, you've spoken exceptionally well, Ronaldo. Well done. Really enjoyed this webinar. So great job. And yes, it will be available. We'll just check to see where we're loading it, but we are recording for you. So before we end off, I know we've got just a few minutes left. We did receive a couple questions. And as we're going through a couple questions now, if you do have more questions, feel free to pop in the chat box as well. So the first question we got was, excuse me, is there a difference between onboarding management employees versus onboarding non-management employees? Is there a big difference in that process?
So definitely. There are, as I mentioned, there are key elements that you see across the board, but each and every role should actually be seen as unique, and onboarding and management is very different to onboarding non-management. Now you have to consider, for instance, things about so the effect like it would have on the team that person is managing, or the larger scheme. So perhaps if they play a strategic role, where, for instance, non-management might not play that strategic role. So there's definitely a difference there, and we need to approach it and realize what is required and what is necessary for the role, and what elements can we actually bring in. And I think with non-management, it would be more or with management, it would be more critical to that culture initially, and even ingraining them quicker, so that they can function effectively and that their team can function effectively. But Kira, is there anything you would like to add?
100%. I totally agree with you there. I think especially when we're looking at management onboarding, it's going to be the management team as well as the team they're managing. So those are two very critical aspects that I love that you highlighted there that we would have to look at. And then I also saw a question, how do we use tools like an onboarding package or things like that virtually? how do you make a great virtual first day? And I'm sure lots of people are worried about this with the change that we've had to take place.
I was thinking, actually, we have a blog written about remote onboarding. So we are happy to share that with you along with the presentation. And that gives us nice practical tips. And here, I think first thing that comes to mind, communication. That is key. But going back to that, certain elements within, you can, like for instance, social interactions, you can also do that virtually. It's just thinking of creative ways of ensuring that you still expose the employee to the culture, even though they're sitting far away and you don't see them or have them in front of you. So there are a lot of different technologies that you can use, and I think this is something we need to consider, especially where we are in our current situation, to ensure so we make that great day. So for instance, I'm thinking of a welcome package that's sent to the employee's house. That is one way, or ensuring that a virtual lunch is organized, and perhaps arranging for that lunch should be shared. So I'm just thinking of culture. But it's even more important so when working remotely, because you do tend to see, so that social element is going to be more difficult, but you need to be proactive and actually do something about it, and plan in advance with that. But key for me is the communication. It's better to over communicate than to leave that employee struggling. And here I think the planning of that first day would be critical to ensure that perhaps more one-on-one time is spent with team members so that they're kept busy, but also have an opportunity to meet the team. Kara, is there anything you'd like to add?
100%. I think that's exactly the point, is we have to put the effort in and plan. And it's really interesting the amount of team building that's even popping up that's virtual now that you can do. And some of it's even for free. It gives you the skills. Some of it obviously will be paid for, but there's a lot that we can actually do. But like you said, it takes a bit more of that planning so that we're not just going to schedule a bunch of meetings, because that's also not a great first day. It's more about how to really get you engaged and give you that culture that's so important to our company from the get-go. So yeah, I think that's definitely the case. And just to finish off there, Caitlin has mentioned there that there is a question in the survey that will be sent to all of you. So if you do tick the box that says you want to receive more electronic content, you are more than welcome to tick that, and we can send that through to you as well. So that survey will be sent out to all of you. If you could please give us some feedback as well, that would be great. Any other questions or anything else that anyone would like to add? Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Thanks, Ronaldo. That was awesome. So feel free to join any of the next webinar sessions. So next week, I'll be hosting the recruitment and onboarding case study. Then on the 18th of August, we've got recruiting for sales, a practical application. Then on the 25th of August, we have recruiting for managers, also a practical application. Thanks so much, everyone, and I hope you have a wonderful week further. Thanks, Ronaldo.
And just last thing, so as Caitlin mentioned, there is a survey which you will be receiving after this. Please, we would like some feedback from you. So if you could please complete, we want to enrich the webinar sessions even more. And so the more we can help and more we can provide something that's worthwhile to you, the better. So please complete. And I really want to thank you for the time you've taken to be with me today and listen to me. I really hope you enjoyed it. So thank you so much.